Tarik Skubal shoves on Sunday Night Baseball, and a surprising and swashbuckling sweep takes place in Pittsburgh, and Houston does not have a problem. This is MLB Game Night.
When that final out is made, you know it's time for Locked On MLB Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On MLB Game Night. Your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to MLB Game Night, every game, every night. My name is John Frisch. I'm one half of Locked On Angels with my brother Mike. And of course, with me is Steve Lenox, the host of the Locked On Red Sox postcast. You can find him at Lenox on Baseball. Coming up on today's show, Matthew Liberatore's breakout season on the mound continues. The Marlins take their 7th in a row, and 2 first-place teams settle their 3-game set in Houston. We're going to get to all of that and so much more, but today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's some sweet action right there. But Steve, let's get into probably the sweetest action of all on Sunday night as the Twins and the Tigers met for Game 3 of this series. Let's take it right to Scott Bentley of Locked On Tigers on a history-making night in Detroit.
Wow. That's really all I have to say is wow. That was awesome. That was one of the coolest regular season games, I think, genuinely in the history of Comerica Park. I'm Scott Bentley, host of Locked On Tigers. The Tigers win 3-0 over the Minnesota Twins. That's a rubber match win, so a game to win a series over a division rival at home, standing room only crowd, again, at Comerica Park, with Tarik Skubal on the mound. And it's Sunday Night Baseball. Sunday Night Baseball returning to Comerica Park for the first time since 2017. And the Tigers still have the best record in baseball. They're 21 games over 500. Skubal goes 7 innings, 13 strikeouts of no-run ball. Riley Green homers. He's on pace for about 120 RBI. Life is good. Unbelievable stuff from this team this year.
Life is good indeed if you're a Tigers fan, and of course it's great to see Scott happy about his team taking this one, especially behind Tarik Skubal. 12 up and 12 down with 9 strikeouts to start this one, 52 pitches through 4 innings. He did give up a 1-out single to Ty France, so he did get 13 in a row, and I thought, we got a little no-hitter action going on here, but he gave up a walk in the 6th, 2 groundouts, and a flyout, 22 swings and misses for Tarik Skubal. Here's his final line: 7 innings pitched, 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 walk, 13 Ks, as Scott mentioned, on 93 pitches. He did tie a season high of 13 Ks. And listen to this, Steve. He's got 10-plus strikeouts for the 5th time this season, his 7th scoreless outing of the year. Just fantastic stuff over the Twins. Is Tarik Skubal the best starting pitcher in baseball right now, Steve?
He's must see. He's must watch. I mean, to sit down, I was anticipating throughout the course of the afternoon, sitting down at 7 o'clock, getting ready to go. And all of a sudden, as you said, he retired 13 in a row to start. He's mowing them down left and right. 13 strikeouts, as you mentioned, ties a season high. He threw 93 total pitches. He probably had 1 more in him. But let's save that for October baseball. Let him go 8 and then have maybe Casey Mize in the game too. Lindsay and I talked about it. Lindsey Crosby and I talked about it sort of on Saturday. You're gonna be able to rest the bullpen when this guy pitches October baseball because the reins are going to be taken off. Canely, Vest, great options. 8th and 9th inning. Vest a 1, 2, 3, 9th inning. His 7th scoreless outing of the season. He was 0-2 to start. 10 straight winning decisions, and the 9th shutout of the season for Tigers pitching. He's been involved in 4 of those. So yes, to your question, must see, and perhaps back-to-back Cy Young awards in the AL.
They've got Reese Olson coming back to the rotation this week as well. So fantasy friends, if you have not picked him up yet, stash him on your IL until he's ready to go, like I did, and I'm waiting for him to get started behind this Tigers offense. Fantastic.
One point
stuff.
that Scott mentioned on Riley Green, John, his home run in the fourth inning made it 2-0. 19 home runs, 63 RBIs now in the season. Last year he had 24 and 74.
Yeah.
So he's going to establish career highs in both those numbers. I love the fact, as Scott said, he's going to surpass not only last year's total, maybe by the All-Star break, but he's absolutely, I would think that he's going to hit 100 plus RBIs with ease.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do not sleep on Riley Green, because he is certainly a big part of why this Tigers offense is so successful right now. Let's take it to Pittsburgh, where the Pirates complete the sweep with a 12-1 victory over the Mets. And Steve, I'm going to be honest with you. This feels like a baseball gods sort of thing, considering the passing of Dave Parker. And of course, he's going to be inducted to the Baseball Hall of Fame on the 27th. Sadly, wasn't able to make that. But of course, NL MVP with the Pirates in 78, 2 World Series titles, one with the Pirates and then with the A's. So it just feels like, yes, this is bad news for the Mets, but at the same time, it's kind of, like I said, baseball gods, poetic. How can you not be romantic about baseball? And
well said.
Gary, of course, of Locked On Pirates, is certainly feeling romantic about baseball right now for his team. Let's hear from Gary right now.
My lowly Pittsburgh Pirates beat the Mets 12-1 today. They swept them at PNC Park, won all 3 games, beat them by a combined score of 30-4. That'll help the run differential problem the Pirates have had all season long, right? In fact, they have not beaten a team in a 3-game series by 7 runs or more in each game since 1934. Historic stuff at PNC Park. O'Neal Cruz, 2 big 2-run homers in this one. Good stuff. Henry Davis, 4 for 4. I mean, 5 for 5 if you count the position player hit he had. I mean, this was a good all-around series. I don't know what the Mets do. They had a closed-door meeting last night. It didn't seem to help. Whatever the Pirates are doing right now, it's working offensively. Let's see if they can continue it into Independence Day week. Look for more tomorrow morning on Locked On Pirates.
Yeah, as Gary mentioned, a 12-1 victory over the Mets. And also, as he mentioned, a 30-4 run differential, 30-4 over this weekend. The Mets could only muster up 4 runs while the Pirates poured it on. Steve, is this, let's take it over to the Mets for a second. Is this, as the kids say, where the Mets crash out, getting swept by the Pirates? What do you say?
As in rock bottom crash out?
Rock bottom crash out, my friend.
As in maybe that meeting that the players held on Saturday didn't necessarily help Sunday, but it's going to help going forward?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought of you this week when Canny went down with the injury, the Achilles, because he was having a very solid season for the Mets. And that looked like a turned ankle. And all of a sudden the next day, and Carlos Mendoza said after the game the other night that, it's the Achilles. And you're just the next day, that the news is coming down, season ending. Montas just recently off the IL, wasn't pitching that well in his rehab assignment and thrown into the mix. Maybe not 100% ready to go. No news on Manaea in terms of, he's going to be back before the All-Star break. So maybe that's after All-Star break. Clay Holmes might be coming back to earth a little bit as well. First year starting in many years. They're going to have to win games 12-8, 12-9. But, they go into Pittsburgh. And one thing the Pittsburgh Pirates have done is, they've got pitching. And another thing they've done is they've won at home. Mm-hmm. So they're starting to put it together a little bit. And I like how you started off with Dave Parker. You sweep this series, you feel good. This offense, Gary's got the sun behind him. All is good in Garyland, in Gary's world right now. But this is the first time this year this offense has shown real signs of life.
Yeah, they've been needing it all season long. And so you just think that if they can keep it clicking, it sets up the Pirates for some future success, next year, the season after that. They just need the owners to, support them with some contracts, some good money spent over the offseason. There's talk about Ke'Bryan Hayes drawing a lot of interest over there. And, who really knows what the Pirates will end up doing if they want to keep that core together. But all of that to say, just a great weekend for Pittsburgh fans. And to beat the Mets like that is huge. Hey, Matthew Libra tore it up against the Guardians. We'll hear from JD of Locked On Cardinals to tell us about it. That's next on MLB Game Night.
And MLB Game Night, every game, every night, presented by FanDuel. Hey, summer sports in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball, under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. With FanDuel, you can track your favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. Easy to use app. Yes, fast payout as well. You like that. And it makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether you're placing the same game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're part of the action. New to FanDuel, big one for you right now. New customers can bet just $5 and with that receive $150 on their first $5 bet. If it wins, you get that $150 in bonus bets. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Back here on a Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night. The Cardinals meeting the Guardians in Cleveland. Game 3, they're looking to complete the sweep, and they do so with a 7-0 win in the finale. We're going to take it over to our MLB Game Night co-host, JD Haffron of Locked On Cardinals, to tell us how the Cards got it done behind Matthew Liberatore on the mound.
That's a winner, and that's a sweep as Matthew Liberatore shoves to lead the St. Louis Cardinals over the Cleveland Guardians. Hey, it's JD from Locked On Cardinals, and the Matthew Liberatore breakout season continues after 6 shutout innings and 5 strikeouts. That bump in the road stretch that he had just a few games ago seems like a thing of the past, man. He's now 3-0 in his last 3 starts and has given up just 4 runs in those games. The offense, which has struggled against lefties this year, jumped on Guardian southpaw Logan Allen early with a 3-run bomb by Nolan Gorman in the first. Victor Scott took Hunter Gaddis deep in the 7th, and the Cardinals tacked on a couple more in the 8th inning to seal this one up. It's a series sweep for the Birds, who are now 47-38 on the season. They continue to keep pace in the division and in the wild card, and now head to Pittsburgh to face another left-hander in Andrew Heaney, with the struggling Eric Fetty scheduled to start for them. For the latest updates and info, be sure to keep it Locked On Cardinals.
Talking about the Guardians, Steve, somebody who's been really missing from this offense is Jose Ramirez. And, he got hit on the hand the other night, the wrist area, forearm area. You kind of wonder if that's what's keeping him, what's holding him back right now, because he just has not had a great weekend, and Guardians need all the offense that they can get. And so, of course you're going to want to run him out there to see what he can do. But yes, the Guardians drop this series. They get swept. They're 2 games under 500, but still somehow in second place in that AL Central, while the Tigers are just running away with that division. So interesting stuff there. Let's take it to the Athletics meeting the Yankees in New York for the 3rd game of this set. The Yankees clinched the series with a 12-5 win. In the finale, they get Marcus Stroman back. Brian of Locked On Yankees feels like there's something different about this team right now. Let's hear what Brian has to say about the Bronx Bombers.
Yankees get a 12-5 victory to close off the series against Oakland. I'm Brian McKinn from Locked On Yankees, and a good series win, but something feels different about this team. We're going to be discussing that all week on Locked On Yankees. Not in the good way, though. Marcus Stroman comes back and gives the Yankees 5 innings of 1-run ball. They used up the bullpen, but they were planning on doing that as they have an off day before they head north of the border to take on a Toronto team that's chasing them in the standings. Aaron Judge with 2 home runs. Massive performance out of him. Jazz Chisholm looked really good, and Bellinger added onto the party, too. We'll be discussing all of it this week on Locked On Yankees.
There you go. Marcus Stroman returns to the mound, has a decent outing, enough to get this team the win. Luis Severino, his first start against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. He falls to 2-9 with the loss. 3 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 7 runs, 6 earned. But even at home, he's not been great. And, he had some strong words about pitching and playing in Sutter Health Park the other day, saying it felt like a spring training game when they play there. There's a lack of air conditioning, the small crowds, the left field clubhouse. Steve, it was only a matter of time before somebody spoke out about Sutter Health Park. Don't you think so?
Yes, and I believe it's now multiple times Sir Severino making comments like this, and shame on you, because not that you signed a 3-year deal with the Athletics thinking it was going to be all roses in West Sacramento, but you had to understand that this was going to be, there were going to be some bumps in the road and being part of this. And you signed up. 3 years is long-term these days.
Right.
So I don't know if he's clamoring to get out of there or what. I mean, the Athletics certainly could say, hey, you know what? We can go get something for him. He's locked up for a couple more years. He's controllable. It's not a horrible contract. But come on. No one wants to hear your excuses. You signed there.
Yeah.
You signed there. Live with it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, and like you said, 3 years is an eternity these days for some of these players and some of these contracts. And so, if he's being that outspoken, you'd certainly want to be making a move here for Severino, and there will be plenty of teams that would want to take him too. Maybe the freaking Mets would gladly have him back right now. Yeah, they'll take him back and they'll get him in the pitching lab and they'll fix him right up like they did last year. We're going to take it to the Nationals meeting my Halos in Anaheim. It was the rubber match. The Nats took game 1. The Angels took game 2. The Nats get a big win over the Angels to my dismay. But we've got Ryan of Locked On Nationals, and he's got the details about how this scrappy team came back to win this one. Let's hear from Ryan right now.
Baseball is a weird sport, but the Washington Nationals, they might be the weirdest team of all time. I'm Ryan Clary from Locked On Nationals, and the Nationals get the win in extra innings in today's ball game, and it was a big one. Again, you win Friday night's game, you look awful in Saturday's loss, and then today's game, it looked like it was going to be a loss, but fortunately for the Nationals, they came back, they rallied, and of course, the scrappy Nats, they made an appearance. But in today's game, James Wood joined a list of just 6 total players who have been intentionally walked 4 times in one game. Some of the names on that list: Barry Bonds, Manny Ramirez, and of course, the legendary Roger Maris. Guys, this James Wood kid, he continues to be the story for the Washington Nationals, but also let's call out C.J. Abrams, a bases-clearing triple in extra innings to get the Washington Nationals in the lead in the 11th inning. And, of course, Drew Millis as well. First start of the season, he looked awesome.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where, as a baseball fan, I really enjoy what the Nationals have going on. And, this young core, especially Ryan mentioned James Wood, and the 4 intentional walks, it just, every time there was a situation where somebody could do some damage, it was James Wood coming to the plate. But it also made sense to put him on in those situations. And so he's a very, very exciting player. I don't know how they lost the 11 in a row, because the team is scrappy. Like Ryan said. And so for them to have that skid, they took this series against the Angels, who just can't seem to crack 500, Steve. They get to 500 and then they fall one game down. They're going to be heading to Atlanta to take on the Braves, who, haven't had the best season either, but it seems like they're turning things around lately. But all of that to say, this was Kenley Jansen's first blown save of the season. He's been awesome. And so I'm not gonna be mad at him for a play that didn't get made over at first base that eventually ended up being the tying run. And then, they had many opportunities to put this game away, and the Angels could just not take it. Taylor Ward, I believe he had 3 doubles in this one. And then later on in the game, when it really mattered, he sat there with a bat on his shoulder and watched 3 pitches hit the strike zone. So this team, it makes so much sense why they can't crack 500 sometimes when you watch them.
Well, let me just remind you, earlier in the week, they took all 3 against the Red Sox. And on Locked On Red Sox postcast, I said this Angels team, based on 6 meetings with the Red Sox, they're World Series contenders.
Huh? Hey.
Yeah, I know.
I'll take
I understand. Still, a game under 500, dropped 2 out of 3 to the Nationals. But, the Nationals go 4-5 on this trip. I picked it up Saturday, where all of a sudden the Angels took advantage of the bullpen. Yeah. Kyle Finnegan, their closer shows you what kind of shape their bullpen has been since day one of the season. He goes 3 scoreless on Sunday because they needed him. But the Angels, I saw in the Red Sox series, 10 straight games of at least 1 home run ending on Sunday. And 9 in those 10 games, 2 or more home runs. So 24 total in that 10-game stretch. Live and die by the home run. That's what we've seen from this team. But they do have the ability, just not consistently, in terms of stringing together multiple hits in an inning. Get him on, get him over, get him in, fundamental baseball. No, it's the long ball.
Yeah, it's been a lot of firepower and then a lot of nothing. And that's been a big issue in Anaheim this season. And then, just when it feels like they're getting consistent and turning a corner, they really have to rely on that long ball to get it done. And so, they're a 500 team, lots of baseball left to be played, but we'll see what happens with my Halos. Hey, we got a walk-off in Cincy. Who was the hero? Well, we got a feeling that Jeff Carr of Locked On Reds is a very, very happy man, and we'll talk about it coming right up. We got an NL East matchup between the Phillies and the Braves. This third game in the 3-game set. The Phillies hold on to take the finale 2-1 and end up taking the series. Just when you thought the Braves were sneaking their way back into that NL East, and they're not too far out of it. The Braves are going to brave. That's my opinion. But Mark of the Locked On Phillies postcast, he's going to give us the impressive numbers behind Ranger Suarez's start on the mound. Let's hear from Mark right now.
Take 2 out of 3 in Atlanta thanks to Sunday afternoon's 2-1 victory, and a bigger thanks to Ranger Suarez again being dominant. Suarez has now pitched 10 straight quality starts. First Phillies pitcher to do that since Cole Hamels and Cliff Lee back in 2013. But even quality start seems like a belittling term to Rangers' accomplishments as of late. 5 straight now. 5 straight games. 7 innings, no more than 2 runs for Ranger Suarez. Complete and utter dominance. And Sunday afternoon, no exception to that. And how about this? Phillies actually get him 2 runs of support while he's in the game. Otto Kemp, an RBI double in the left field corner, bringing home Bryson Stott. A little bit of small ball as the Phillies have 2 sacrifices that lead to Otto Kemp scoring the Phillies' second run of the game. Trey Turner bringing him home with a sac fly RBI to center field. Phillies now come home for a 6-game homestand, beginning with a 3-game series with the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, and it was actually a great pitching matchup because Spencer Strider had a great game himself. 7 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Still waiting on Strider to, do Strider things for this Braves team. But Ranger Suarez, as Mark said, was just phenomenal. And he's been phenomenal. So it almost makes you think about my earlier question about Tarik Skubal. He's can't miss. But when it comes to Ranger Suarez, it seems like he's can't beat, right? You can't beat him when he's on the mound, right?
And he maybe gets lost in the mix a little bit. And that's not a bad thing with the way that rotation is. Wheeler's going to get top billing. Right. Christopher Sanchez has been terrific. A couple, again, Nola has not been what you want him to be this year. But Suarez, 7-game winner now on the season. And may very well be an all-star in the National League. You could certainly make the case.
Absolutely. I'd put him on my all-star team. Let's take it to the Cubs meeting the Astros in Houston for this rubber match. 2 first-place teams colliding. Sam Olbert tells us how this one thing kept the Cubbies in check. Let's hear from Sam, the local expert of the Locked On Cubs podcast.
We know how good Framber Valdez is, but it really doesn't matter if it's Skubal, Valdez, or a left-hander that may be a 4th or 5th starter on a team. If you throw the ball with your left hand, you're going to have success against the Chicago Cubs the last month and a half. I'm Sam Olbert from the Locked On Cubs podcast. Cubs get shut out in Houston, 2-0. Was not a fan of the way Craig Counsell managed this game in the 5th inning. I thought he pushed Jameson Tyone too far. But you can't really have that takeaway when the team scored 0 runs and just continues to struggle against left-handed pitching. Cubs go 3-4 on this road trip. The goal was to go 4-3. But they need to start stacking some wins here. They need to start getting hot again. They're 11-13 over their last 24. If that's just going to be a blip in the season, which is fine, you got to start stacking wins and getting hot again. They got a homestand after a day off tomorrow against Cleveland. And St. Louis, they need to get on a 3-4 game win streak or something to get going, get some rhythm. But it's hard to do that when you can't hit left-handed pitching. They got to figure out a way to solve that, whether it's internally or in the trade market. The time to wait is done. Got to make some moves quick.
Yeah, definitely. And if you look at the line today, it reaffirms what Sam was saying. Ian Happ 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Seiya Suzuki 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Pete Crow Armstrong 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. So everybody putting up deuces here in this one for the Cubs. But Steve got some good numbers here about the Astros. But let me just say this. No Bregman, no Tucker. No problem, right? For the Astros?
Yeah, and I think a name that you have to put in there as well with those two, Tucker and Bregman, the guy who's still on the team but on the IL, Yordan Alvarez.
Right, absolutely.
Has not played since early May. 3 home runs, 18 runs batted in. If we said those were the numbers a couple of weeks before the All-Star break for the Astros, you would say they're going to be looking up at a couple teams in the AL West. Instead, everyone's looking up at them still. So you're going to get him back. And, there are a lot of teams around baseball right now. Well, if we add the guy from the IL, it's like we're making a trade. Well, That's one for Houston right now. Tucker's not coming back. Bregman's not coming back. Alvarez is, and he's going to be in the middle of that lineup at some time soon.
Yeah, and you got guys like Jose Altuve. It was all it took for him to win this game was just that 2-run home run in the 5th. So the Cubs fall to the Astros 2-0. The Astros take this series finale. No problems in Houston, my friends. All right, let's take it to the Padres and the Reds meeting for game 3 of this set. Reds took 2 of 3 in this one, and Jeff Carr has the chance to sing the praises of his favorite Cincinnati Red right now. Let's take it to Jeff Carr of the Locked On Reds podcast.
Will Benson is a problem. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast, and Will Benson has 3 hits and the game-winning walk-off single to get the Reds a victory, 3-2 over the Padres. That's now 6 out of 7 series that the Cincinnati Reds have won. Look, you're not going to win every game in the 162, but if you can win every series, you'll find yourself in the playoffs. The Reds are really starting to put together some momentum here, and it's key that they beat the Padres because the Padres are ahead of them in the wild card race. If they can continue to do this and own the season series against San Diego, that's going to be a huge thing come October. But it was how the Reds won this game. This was an ugly win, and anybody would say that it was an ugly win, but the Reds have not won ugly games these past couple of years. We've been wanting them. We've been begging them to win an ugly game. They lose those games almost exclusively over the last few seasons. To see them pull this win out is absolutely massive, and Will Benson came up with the big hit to get it done.
Jeff loves talking about Will Benson, and I love seeing him energized about that. So let me ask you, Steve, the Dodgers, they've got a 7-game lead in the NL West. The Rays and the Blue Jays, they've clawed their way back into the AL East. But the NL Central and the Reds are just sitting 5 games behind the Cubs at first place. I know Jeff mentioned the wild card. That's very important as well. But do you think this NL Central is still up for grabs? The Cubs, it's not necessarily the Cubs division to take at this point.
I do, because right now they're 2 up on Milwaukee and 2.5 up on the Cardinals. Milwaukee had an opportunity to sweep on Sunday. Didn't happen against the Rockies. St. Louis, we already talked about with JD. They did complete their series sweep. I think this is going to be pretty much what you see right now throughout the rest of the season. I don't see the Cubs because, as you heard from Sam, hey, they've got things they've got to work on. Maybe they add a right-handed bat to counter left-handed pitching. But I want it. I'm hopeful that it's this way the rest of the way, because it's a division that's going to have a division race come September. So I'm all for it, and I do think it's going to be as tight it is right now and maybe even tighter. But can I just say with Jeff, sometimes we see Jeff at the ballpark. Sometimes we see Jeff mobile around his home, walking around and keeping that camera nice and steady. If you had ever said, given me 4 choices, and Jeff doing Locked On MLB Game Night short video for us with a recap, in his car with the seatbelt on, I would not have picked that of the 4 choices ever.
Well, at least he wasn't moving. That's the important part. Don't text and drive, everybody. So speaking of this Central Division, we've got the Rockies and the Brewers. The Rockies avoid being swept for the 13th time this season. They get a 4-3 win in 11 innings. Orlando Arcia tied the game at 2 with a 2-out solo home run in the 9th. And then the Brewers fall at the very last minute. Chuck of Locked On Brewers tells us why this game has him hurting as a Brewers fan.
That loss is painful in so many different ways. Hey, everybody, Chuck Freeman, Instant Reaction, Locked On Brewers. How many times have we seen the Brewers try to live on scoring as few runs as possible? They have 3 hits through 8 innings against one of the worst teams in baseball history. And they try to lean on their pitching staff. And Trevor McGill, I'm not throwing shade at him. Yeah, he gave up the solo home run, the tying home run at the top of the 9th inning, then a run in the 10th inning. But you know what? 3 hits through 8 innings against that team when he had him on the ropes on a Sunday. Beautiful crowd on hand, and you couldn't close it out. Also, you couldn't move, because of that loss, you couldn't move within a game of the first place Cubs. You had a chance to move into within 1 game of the Cubs, into a day off. Man, we'll talk about all this coming up tonight on the next edition of Lock the Brewers. Please subscribe.
Man, you go from Jeff's energy to Chuck's pain. I'm sorry to see Chuck in pain, but these are the kind of games that you look back on in September and go, man, if they had just won that one, they'd be in the wild card or they'd be in the playoffs. So hopefully this isn't going to have too much of an impact on the Brewers.
Still 10 over. They're still 10 over 500.
Yeah. At least they're over 500, unlike my Angels. Exactly. Let's take it to the Marlins meeting the Diamondbacks in Arizona, where the Fish are on fire. They pull off the series sweep. Suddenly, the Marlins have won 7 in a row in this 6-4 win over the Diamondbacks. And they've also won 9 in a row on the road. They've scored 5 or more runs in 6 of the 7 games during this 7-game win streak. Otto Lopez with his 2-run double in the 8th put the Marlins up 3-2. And then Kyle Stowers, who they got from the Orioles last year, got a 3-run double to make it 6-2. And so that ended up being what did the Diamondbacks in. They've lost 4 in a row and are a game below 500. Steve, take us to the Blue Jays meeting your Red Sox in Boston.
Yeah, Blue Jays continue to win baseball games at Fenway over the last couple of years. This series was 1-1 going into the finale. Blue Jays win at 5-3, and they do take 2 out of 3. Addison Barger, Vlad Guerrero Jr. back-to-back home runs against Walker Buehler on 2 straight pitches in the first inning. Buehler taking the loss, now 1-4, ERA almost 8 in his last 6 starts. Jays relievers combining for 4 2/3 of scoreless baseball did a terrific job on Sunday. Jeff Hoffman struck out the side in the 9th inning for the save. Jays now 7-3 against the Red Sox this season, 5-2 at Fenway.
Wow.
Just one more series on the season between the two. That's in Toronto in September. I said it on Locked On Red Sox postcast on Sunday. Who knows what the AL East standings are going to look like in September, but Blue Jays have a series coming up against the Yankees, and it's a big one right now. They really want to create a little urgency for the Yankees and a raise in front of them. And they're playing terrific baseball right now. They really are in many ways. It was fun to watch Toronto outside of their loss on Saturday where they got thumped. But Friday and Sunday, that's a lineup that is starting to click. And I just got a sense that they're playing as a team.
Yeah.
And I think that is big. It might be cliche a little bit, but they're picking each other up in a lot of different ways offensively.
Absolutely. Yeah. When that offense is clicking, the Blue Jays cannot be stopped. Let's take it to the Giants and the White Sox finishing their 3-game set. The White Sox take the finale 5-2. They've taken 2 of 3 from the Giants. They've won 2 of their last 3 series and have won 7 series this season. The White Sox are trying to erase the fact that they were, history's worst team last year, and they're working their way back slowly but surely. I think right now the Rockies are becoming the punching bag. Now we know that they beat the Brewers today, but again, the White Sox, they're trying to scrape away that reputation from last year and build something better this year. And they do it with another series win against a team in the Giants who's trying to get a postseason spot as well, especially making a move like going for Devers and bringing him to San Francisco. Hasn't really paid off quite yet, but you can't imagine it's going to be like that forever for San Francisco. Let's take it, Steve, to the Dodgers and the Royals. Tell us how this one went down.
Dodgers take the finale. John, 5-1. They take 2 out of 3 in Kansas City. Kike Hernandez, Will Smith, both homering for LA. Justin Robleski, after the opener, 6 scoreless, 3 hits allowed, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, ouch, both going 0 for 4. Top 2 spots in the lineup for the Dodgers. Chris Bubich, 2 earned runs allowed for the Royals over his outing, takes the loss. Royals couldn't make it back-to-back wins after they snapped that losing streak on Saturday. They've now lost 7 of 8 and 12 of their last 13 at Kauffman Stadium.
Ooh, brutal. Let's take it to the Mariners and the Rangers. All 3 games in Arlington going to extra innings. They just can't stop giving away free baseball, these 2 teams. And it was a pitcher's duel. Jack Leiter, 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, no walks, 7 Ks. Luis Castillo has a nice bounce-back performance, 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 4 Ks. Ended up being a 6-4 final in 12 innings. The go-ahead run across in the top of the 12th, Mitch Garver made it 6-3 with a 2-run home run. And of course, the Mariners take this one. Finally, Steve, take us to the Rays and the Orioles meeting for what has been a crazy series so far.
Yeah, and in the end, Orioles do take 2 out of 3. Had that big comeback and 22 runs on Friday in the opener. Win the series finale 5-1. Dean Kramer, the story in this one, going 7 scoreless innings, walked 1, struck out 6. Now 7-7 with the win. Maybe his name starts being mentioned as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. But gave up just 3 singles in the outing. And Taj Bradley taking the loss. Gave up 5 earned runs in his outing for the Rays. He drops to 5-6. And you said earlier, there are some series where it's like, okay, Milwaukee lost the finale against Colorado. They do win the series, but the Rays in this series might look at it at some point in time and say, wow, back in late June, we lost 2 out of 3 in Charm City against the Orioles.
Yeah, every game matters at the end of the season. You can lose the season anytime. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here for this edition of MLB Game Night. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. We'll be in your audio feed on the Locked On MLB audio feed wherever you get your podcast. Come back and join us tomorrow night as we take you around the league one more time, because this is Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night.